Forever Skies has come a long way since its initial reveal trailer, and I'm so glad I've had a few days to put some time into this game before its full release, or early access release I should say. Really enjoying it, and I've got a beginner's guide today for you on how to survive the first few days with some good tips about crafting, survival and basically what you should be doing. I've tried to make this as a beginner friendly guide as possible with not too much advanced stuff. That will come in different videos. So do subscribe to see more Forever Skies content and check out my 100 Days channel. I've been live streaming the game for the last few days, so you can see pretty much all my adventures, and I've got a feature length video incoming as well. Let's go, how to survive Forever Skies. So there is a pretty comprehensive tutorial. It will teach you the basics of getting your water purifiers and making sure you've got maybe a cooker to cook some food. So I'm not going to just rattle off exactly what you'll come across in the first 10 minutes. But there are a few pointers, like obviously don't go ahead and drink any dirty water. Once you've crafted a purifier, this converts the dirty air into dirty water, but you do need a filter to get it to work. So don't be a numbnuts like me and drink the dirty water, giving yourself a virus straight away. Eventually you'll be able to get special water holders that collect the rainwater, and you'll use these much more efficiently than some of these purifiers. Whether or not you'll actually contract a virus just by eating something you shouldn't have depends on your status of your food, your energy, your water, and of course your health. In the bottom left corner you can see you've got the virus circle, and when it's yellow and going down to the bottom, then you're going to be more susceptible to catching viruses, as you're warned repeatedly by your AI companion. So the rule of thumb is don't let anything ever really get to red, as otherwise you may have more chance of getting viruses. I have to say, on the default game mode though, it wasn't too punishing, apart from my own stupidity in drinking the dirty water or eating uncooked food. Relatively you can stay virus free, and you can pretty much find a cure for any infliction that you've given yourself or caught. So the best state of mind is to get that yellow circle to make sure it's always blue and as full as you can be. Always try and have at least one spare food and one bottle of water nearby, because you never know when your airship may take damage in a storm and you're going to have to spend time creating fuel or fixing stuff, and then that might be the crucial time that you can't get to somewhere to get your next bite to eat. I just got a virus eating an uncooked melon. So the cure for this one is going to be one of the dust lettuces that you can pick up while fishing. So as long as you're always cooking your food, then you're going to avoid most of the early game viruses until you actually want a virus, so you can study it and get some bonuses and buffs from it much later. The farm location is really stuffed to the brim with food, and your first instinct might be to go ahead and grab it all. Well, obviously if you do that, a lot of them are going to pretty much go rotten. Take what you need the first time, go ahead and scan it all obviously, and then just go and cook one of each before deciding to pick anything more. Explore fully these environments and make it the last thing that you do, gathering the actual resources like the crops. A lot of them are going to have much more varied uses later on, but certain plants will give you a quick energy boost. Pretty much all of them though are going to give more benefits cooked rather than raw. Also, you can cook rotten food, so it's not complete dead loss. It will give you a small meal, but you'll lose any additional benefits if it's rotten. A really key resource to get is colanders. These can be found on the main kind of tubes or standing pillars from some of these farm areas. These are going to be needed to go ahead and research and help craft new items later. So bear that in mind. I found these were the ones that were most in use for later items that you would need. If you've got limited space in your fridge, make sure you've always got space for a couple of them. Don't forget to hack away at some of the other crops that you'll come across as well. Seemingly once you've picked the fruit, there's nothing else to do with them, but this will give you biomass which you can use to make fuel later. You can also still get certain things like flowers from these as well, and again they'll come in useful later. Also a little FYI, but even the grass that you see in the crop plots can be hacked away and you'll get biomass from that as well. Before we move more onto the technology and keeping your airship in good supply, what happens when you die? Well, you do lose about 20% of your resources that you have on you, so you do kind of want to avoid it. Little FYI, anytime you're stuck, you can use the unstuck button to go ahead and teleport yourself back to your airship. Some viruses are going to affect you more. They'll either give you blurry vision or make you take more damage in direct sunlight, so you have to be careful not to leave them linger too long. So do pay attention to each virus and what the cure is for it, so that you've always got it in mind that you can go and pick it up if you need to, or just make sure all your other vitals are always pretty high. As long as you've got plenty of food, water and you're resting, then it doesn't really matter the virus that you've got. It's not necessarily going to kill you straight away until much later in the game when you might get more advanced ones. Other things that can kill you instantly are of course dropping off your airship by accident and landing from a great height. And you can take damage directly from lightning strikes if you're outside your airship. There is some creature danger, but not as much as you would think, and it's pretty obvious what's going to damage you and what's not, judging by the sounds. So you won't need to necessarily worry about loads of first aid kits. You'll find plenty if you keep exploring all the different outposts. Where you place your tools and items can really matter, especially your ship extractor. Make sure you place this on the back, pretty much opposite your steering wheel. Yes, you can go ahead and craft more than one if you really want to, and eventually once you've got loads of materials, this might be the optimum way to have something lined up. In actual fact, once you've got enough resources, go ahead and build yourself a small gangway directly opposite on the other end of your ship, and this will give you almost 360 coverage, so no matter where the wind's blowing, you're always going to get more resources. It might seem pretty obvious, but make sure you scan absolutely everything when you've landed at any of the outposts or locations. Obviously the starting one where you're building your airship, make sure you get every piece of metal, every piece of glass that you can. So many of the things that you craft require either 30 of something or 10 of something, and generally you only get around 5 to 6 pieces each time you dismantle. Not forgetting smaller canisters, make sure you scan everything as well to see if it has got an actual use. I found that my playthrough was kind of disrupted in having to stop every 2 seconds to go ahead and get more synthetics, which was definitely something I needed the most of in the early stages. So take that little bit of extra time, make sure you're parked up in the sky and that you're actually facing against the wind. This way you'll have some of the resources flying towards you rather than away, which you can see here, making it much quicker and easier to pick up so many of them. You can obviously see which way the wind's blowing by looking at the particles, or double check on your steering wheel. And I'll repeat again, some of the things that I ran out of the most were definitely synthetics, so take your time to maybe do 2:1 ratio, unless you're going to be doing a lot of shipbuilding where you may need more of the metal pieces. You'll see plenty of indicators on your map locator once you unlock it and place it down. Until then, you've just got to keep following the lights. But what if you don't want to keep revisiting the same places? Well, obviously make sure you go ahead and remove every battery that you find at each outpost. You'll have noticed the locations still appear on the map even after you've explored them. This is the only way to stop visually that you've been to some place or not. And obviously they'll come in handy for a variety of uses much later, as they'll be used to help recharge certain tools. And do make sure you look in every single nook and cranny. There are so many resources at so many of these different outposts. Remember, they are procedurally generated, and in that they swap the tiles around, and so certain things are going to spawn in certain places, and this is how you unlock new technology. Remember, this is an obvious tips guide, so apologies if that seemed too basic, but you won't be surprised to hear that you've got to go and explore a whole bunch of the same or similar locations to find certain gear. Like this wrecked soft cushion that you can only find in these particular types of outpost. I have completed the game now and I'm nearly close to exploring all locations, so I will be doing a rundown of everything you can find in each location, but just bear that in mind. If you race towards the end goal, which the story will dictate to you, you'll miss out on uncovering a whole bunch of quality of life technology that can help you. Things like fridges to keep your food lasting longer, or if you want a bit more decoration in your life, you can go ahead and find paint at abandoned towns. So if it looks like you've not explored it before, then obviously stop off and check to see if it's got any new technology. Key parts of technology should appear as question marks on the actual map scanner, so make sure you're always checking that and head towards any that you find, and obviously the exclamation marks will be part of the story. You can also check to see what you found at each variant of each location, and this way you'll know if there's more technology to discover. So if you do want to decorate your ship more, you're going to need the ship workbench, and you will be able to find one of them at one of the crash site locations. Obviously each one of the locations in the database will give you an idea of what you can find there. So obviously you go to wind turbine farms to get copper, the big farm outpost to get loads of food, So do pay attention to their menus and check on them regularly to make sure you're going to the right location for whatever it is you need. Also look and see if there's any of the rooms that they've got a secret doorway in, or maybe some extra parkour means that you're going to have to get through to get access. Some outposts require you pretty much to go on top of the roofs also. This is also a great source where you can get a load of glass, so make sure you take your ship up here if you've got enough turbines to lift you so you can get some, especially the farms particularly. Just remember not to hit glass with your knife, as that just breaks it and you don't actually get anything back. Use the ship's extraction tool, and much later you will get your own personal extraction tool. Still got to work on this a little bit, but it does seem like the lower you are in the dust, the more chance you've got of getting hit by debris. Now, if your ship does take damage and it goes to 0, it's not maybe the end of the world unless certain key parts get damaged, like your engines, or maybe your turbines, or your front driving pod. So don't panic every 2 seconds just because it flashes up that your ship has taken damage. Try and be gentle when you land as well, as that can cause extra damage, and it's just a bit of a buggersome cumbrance having to go and craft lots of repair patches all the time. I also recommend for that reason starting off small with your ship design. I mean, it's all about creativity, so if you want to spend extra time gathering the resources to put more ship pods and stuff down, I would still wait until you've got a bit more in the game, as you'll unlock new things to place so you can have new types of pods and make your ship look even better. The bigger it is, the more chance you're going to have to repair multiple different sections with repair patches, especially when a storm hits. Also, if any of your technology isn't working, like the extractor or your fishing device, then make sure it doesn't need repairing, as that will also stop it from functioning sometimes if it's gone to 0. But yeah, I did feel like as long as I was flying as high as I could, I did avoid more of the debris. Just like all good survival games, always look to research everything you can in the early stages. Obviously, the more that you unlock, the more tools you'll gain access to and more components that you'll be able to craft. So keep making that the focus in the early days, keeping yourself alive with food and water, but making sure you're always getting enough components to feed your research station. The more you explore, the more you'll expand what you can craft. I don't really just want to be sitting here to tell you how to play the game, but that will come in probably another video where I go through maybe the most important unlocks. You will eventually get access to better fuels. Make sure that you craft and use these. They will generally last a lot longer than the regular synthetic fuel, and it's just a lot easier as well, considering that you need so many of the synthetics to craft other stuff. When it comes to placing the engines, it doesn't matter where. Do make sure they're accessible, that you'll be able to repair them mid-flight. And of course, load up any fuel. You really won't need more than 2 for the majority of your playthrough, unless you really want to be speeding everywhere, and then of course you still need to make loads of that fuel. Also, in terms of turbines, I wouldn't go more than 3. As long as they're repaired in good condition, 3 turbines will be pretty much enough to take you to the heights that you need to get access to some of the higher outposts. If it says your max altitude is kind of low, then it looks like that maybe one of your turbines has taken some damage. Repair them and you should be able to get a bit higher. Also, bear in mind, if you go with the wind, it does give you a couple kilometers extra speed, so that helps as well when making a decision about where to go if you're just freely exploring and gathering resources. Last thing to mention about new technology is that it'll always be red if it's a key piece that you're going to need. So always have your scanner out when you're exploring a new space, just to see if there's anything else you can learn. So if you ever come across a laptop, that means there's going to usually be something worth getting from it. The hard drive batteries you can pretty much find at almost any location. There should be one of the junction boxes. If not, yeah, you should have hopefully stored some up anyway by finding them and removing them so you don't go back to that same location, and then simply put it in the empty junction box to get access to the laptops and unlock new technology. You will find loads and loads of info about what exactly it all does, so definitely take some time to read up on some of the information. Do also remember, you can go ahead and dismantle and pick up different pieces. So if it's a base part for the ship, you can dismantle it and you get all your resources back. Unless it's taken significant damage, then you might only get a percentage. And then likewise, you can pick up pretty much any workstation that you place and put it anywhere you want. If you accidentally dismantle a floor piece with a crafting station on it, don't worry, it'll just be refunded and given back to your inventory. There are weight limits to consider as well if you're going to be expanding your airship, but to be honest, I have not really encountered too many problems with that. You'll gain access to some upgrades for the actual balloon itself, and I do believe that'll help with any extra weight that you might need. But yeah, obviously if your ship gets way too big and you can't go too fast or too high, then yeah, you might need to lighten the load or make sure you've got your air balloon actually upgraded. Need some extra light but don't really have enough resources to craft loads of lamps? Then make sure you go ahead and upgrade your ceiling tiles to full metal ceilings, as these have some natural lights built into them. Shout out to Greg, the communications manager for Forever Skies, for this one. It can be easy to also forget about upgrading the ceiling and the floors when you've put a new room in place. If doing so, it will keep your ship more protected against any of the storm elements. When you're travelling around, you might want to stop off and take care of some of the metal constructs you see in the buildings, thinking it's going to give you a lot more metal. What I've found is it doesn't actually. It only gives you a small amount more than just getting some of the debris that's floating around. The exception to this, of course, is getting things like copper that you'll see on the white turbine outposts. They're definitely worth stopping off to get, because copper can't really be found in many other places. And that's pretty much it as a starter guide. I am going to leave a more advanced tips guide for later, where I'll go over what exactly is under the dust and all the different upgrades and stuff. One thing to note though, that energy crystals are needed to make your own extractor, and this information gets given to you pretty early in the game. So I was like searching and searching around hoping to find this. It never really appeared, obviously, until the very end. Once you've crafted your personal extractor, don't go too mad utilising it everywhere, as you will obviously run out of charge, and then you may have to craft a special advanced crafting charger to go ahead and power it back up. So do make sure you grab more than one crystal when you venture into the under the dust area, so that you don't have to keep making repeat trips. Get at least 2, 3, maybe even 4 to get everything you need to come back down more equipped. And that's where I'm going to leave you. I don't want to spoil too much more. Like I said, it's meant to be just a beginner's guide. I will have more dedicated videos though to give you the rundown on all the technology you can craft, shipbuilding, and some of the locations you should head for as soon as possible. Hopefully this has been useful. Do go and check out my channel, 100 Days Jade PG, if you want to see me play this live and see my fully finished video on my experiences. And as always, I'll see you for the best in survival games, news, guides, and gameplay soon. Bye bye.